Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. I am the owner and artist behind Starstruck Pups, and today we're going to be doing something really fun. I actually just got a new sketchbook, which is really awesome because I've been avoiding getting a new sketchbook for a really long time now. I, like many of you, struggle with perfectionism, so when seeing all of the beautiful sketchbooks on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, I immediately wanted a piece of that, but didn't necessarily want to actually try to start in case I didn't make it as perfect as they did. Realistically, I understand that their sketchbooks probably weren't perfect to them either. There are some pages that they didn't show us. So I am just going to accept the realities of sketchbooks and accept the realities of needing to fail as part of the art process so that I can actually grow to create that perfect sketchbook that I've always wanted to make. So today we are going to be starting off by actually making a sketch and painting the front of my sketchbook. Originally I thought I might put some stickers on, but that didn't really feel like my vibe. So when I asked myself what would I want to paint onto my sketchbook, it became very clear to me kind of like that. I know that my main reason for painting and the main reason why I've decided to pursue art full time is for my dog Sage. Okay, when my pup Amelia passed away, I was absolutely lost and didn't know what to do, didn't think I would ever be happy again. And I just drew her and painted and reminded myself that this is what I want to do with my life. And very soon after, I found my dog Sage, who I consider my soul pup, and she is my inspiration and muse on an absolute daily basis. And every small thing that she does, I realize that I want to spend my life giving her the best life ever. And I want to do that in a way that makes me happiest and gives me the best life ever as well. And that's pursuing my art career full-time. Art career full-time. So we're gonna start again by sketching Sage on the front. This way, every time I open my book, I'm reminded of why I do this. So let's get started. First things first, we're gonna need some tools. So a sketchbook, some color pencils, and a sharpener to keep things going. When I first started drawing, I really thought I was going to need 2 colored pencils because I didn't think that the white would be pigmented enough for me to see the sketch, but luckily it was. So at this point, I'm just getting some of the colors that I want to use onto my palette. I'm a really big fan of Magic Hour colors and have been really vibing with them. Those of you who don't know, Magic Hour is that absolutely magical time of day right before the sunrise or after the sun sets, when the sky is filled with purples, pinks, oranges, and yellows. It's honestly so beautiful, like genuinely so enchanting to me. So when I decided what kind of colors I wanted to use with my paintings going forward, as I was kind of chipping away at what Deja's style is, I decided why not use the colors that make you feel great every single time you look at them. And that's what I did. I decided to try to find ways to get all of my subjects to use purple, orange, pinks, and just create shadows and highlights in a way that not only challenged me as an artist, but that I was creating work that I genuinely loved rather than constantly creating work where I was questioning what my audience might love or what people online might like to see. Because at the end of the day, my audience will love whatever it is that I make, so I shouldn't be working to create something for somebody else. And while I am working on defining my personal style and developing different techniques that make my style work for me, that's not to say that I don't occasionally use colors outside of Magic Hour. I've definitely used some browns and blues that you might not find during Magic Hour, and that's because, well, I want to. And at the end of the day, art is all about creating how you want the piece to look and creating that piece however it fits your mood in that moment. Just because I currently love to use Magic Hour colors for a lot of my pieces doesn't mean that every single time I paint, I'm gonna feel limited by Magic Hour colors. If there's one thing I learned along my journey, it's that yes, you can totally have preferences that help to guide your art and the way your art looks, but that doesn't mean that you should be shackled down by whatever your current style is. Style is an ever-evolving thing that changes with an artist because anyone's style is really, or at least what I've picked up on style, is that it's really just your preferences at the time as an artist. So right now, my style is somewhere along the lines of using enchanting colors such as blues, purples, pinks, and lots of stars. But in a few years, hell, in a few months, that might change a little, or it might completely change. Because in that moment, as an artist, I'm feeling like I want to use a completely different set of colors. And I don't think that I should ever hinder myself or my creativity by saying, oh well, that's just not my style. So I like to keep an open mind about things like that. Otherwise, I'm just gonna end up putting myself in a box where I don't allow myself to be creative or to explore new things. And I really do want to continue to learn and explore new things as an artist every single day. It used to genuinely scare me that if I couldn't find my style quick enough, then I wouldn't find my audience quick enough, and no one would like my art, and I would be super far behind, and everyone would think that I'm 10 different artists packed into one if I just keep painting in 10 different styles. But at the end of the day, my audience and the group of people that I want following me are a group of people who are committed to seeing how I grow as an artist and being there for that journey. Sometimes my current style might be something that's right up your alley, and sometimes you might think, well, I could do that better. And you know what? 100% you probably can, because you're doing it to your standard and what you like. Meanwhile, I'm doing things to my standard and what I like. But if there is one thing that I've started to really grow comfortable with over my art journey, it's that I don't mind if somebody doesn't like my art, or if my art isn't for that specific person, because that just means that they're not my audience, and I'm not trying to please people who are outside of my audience that I'm hoping to share my journey with. So if you're someone who's constantly struggling with feeling like you need to people please anyone and everyone that's looking at you and your account, my best advice is to just give that up. You're stressing out for no reason. There's literally no reason to try to people please everyone, okay? At the end of the day, as an artist, hell, as a human, your job should be first and foremost being pleased with yourself and being happy with the life and art that you're creating. If other people happen to like or even love what you're creating, then great. Those are your people. Those are the people that you want in your circle and you really want supporting you and just being there for you. But if they're rude or don't care for you or your art the way that they should, then there's no reason for you to care about them. Not in a mean way, but literally just in a way that that's not your audience and they're not your concern. Your priorities lie in becoming the best artist and person that you could be for yourself and for your journey. So do whatever it takes to get that and toss aside anything else that makes you think otherwise. Anyways, back to the painting. Right now I'm working on Sage's eyes, making sure to look back and forth to the reference photo so that I'm making sure that all of the reflections in her eyes are actually accurate to the photo that I'm trying to recreate. And while yes, I can of course take some artistic, creative license to change things up the way I want to, and I am, trust me, I am. Right now, I'm still trying to make it look as realistic to the photo as I can, because that's what creates the look that I'm going for in this piece. She has paws that her vet described as a little bit cattle doggy of some sort. We don't know exactly what Sage is mixed with yet, but I like the idea of cattle dog feet. Why not? So to work on it, I'm actually using 3 different colors that I measured out towards the reference I have, and I'm just dabbing it onto the sketchbook so that I could create that marbled effect by constantly changing them up. And while I can look back and be proud of it now, honestly, these paws were having me lose my mind when I was painting them, because I felt like no matter how much I painted, no matter how many dots I added, it just wasn't working for me in that area. Nothing seemed right. But now that I've had more time and space away from the finished product, it's easier for me to see that I was doing perfectly fine all along and that I just needed to trust the process. So I'm glad that I allowed myself to do that and to move forward instead of just harping in on it and considering what a mistake it was at the time. Plus, I'd like to additionally mention that my first attempts at the first paw led me to try a new technique with the second paw, where I was a little bit more selective about where I placed my colors and looked more towards the reference photos so that I could make sure I was pulling from the photo exactly what I was seeing and getting that down onto the sketchbook. That said, I think it's really important that even when you're working, live on this piece, that you're considering what you did in other parts of the painting and adjusting moving forward. every time you lift that paintbrush, it's an opportunity to learn something new, to learn a technique that works better for you, or to try something different, to try something old and to see if it works better for you now that you're more experienced. As an ex-teacher, I'm a really big advocate for continuing to learn throughout the process and life in general, and not just allowing yourself to sink into the whole "this sucks." Because it's really easy to fall into that mindset when you're in the middle of a piece that you consider to be a little bit more difficult than what you've done before. I'll tell you that when I was working on this blanket that Sage is lying on, this was my first time ever working with so many creases and highlights in a material, and I was going absolutely nuts. As I was working on it, I was absolutely convinced that there was no way I could make it look like the photo, and that it was just way too intricate of details in order for me to keep up with the reference. So I took some artistic license on this and decided to pick up only the most prominent folds from the image, and past that I decided to actually place the folds wherever I wanted to and wherever I thought that they would look best, and just to help myself out during my art process. If at the end of the day, making it look exactly like the reference photo is actually going to hinder me from completing this piece, I would rather just come up with something completely different, completely new, and just give it a shot than to do absolutely nothing at all and not finish what I started. So that's what I did. I worked in layers, first getting down the more prominent dark contours of the folds in the blanket. Then I added a glaze on top with the original blanket color, just to make the purple underneath less pigmented and to give it a more unified look. Honestly, being introduced to glazing mediums completely changed my artistic journey and my life in general, because before I was working really hard to blend rather than just working with tools that already existed. So by being introduced to this glazing medium, it absolutely transformed my process. After the glazing, I added some of the highlights that I saw on the blanket from the image, and then went back in with that original purple to deepen the shadows that were in the blanket. This way I could tell exactly where the folds were, as well as where the sun or whatever light source it was touching down on the blanket in the image. At this point in the process, my mentality was, if I could really create a more exaggerated look where the blanket folds were and where the highlights were, I would be able to just add the glaze on top to unify the entire blanket and the color that I'm actually looking for in the blanket, and that should give me the results that I'm looking for. Mind you, this is the first time I'm ever attempting this, so I was kind of risking it all, but at the same time, I don't like to think about it as risking it all per se, because with painting, you could always just add another layer on top and try again. I'd rather call it experimenting. This is exactly the mentality I've always had when practicing how to get my stars and twinkles just right. Now, here it's definitely a little bit tougher to just paint over it and start again because they're so much thinner, but I do like to work a lot slower than I used to like to work when completing stars. Before, I used to think it was a sign of a good artist if you could do something right the first time and really just get it perfect. But now I understand that building up is honestly the way to go. To me, with building up, you're not only building up the paint and the piece, but you're also building up your confidence as you work. So I like to enter all of my paintings as confident as I can, which is why I allow myself the grace of not getting something done perfectly right the first time, and instead just trusting the process and taking the time to fully work through your process in a calm and patient way, because that's really what trusting the process is all about. Well, that and plus working through the ugly teen phase of whatever piece you're currently working on. So here I am working on the last of the twinkles in my sketchbook. I want to make sure, as I mentioned before, that I'm working a nice slow process, because otherwise these tiny stars have managed to become inches big in previous projects, and I really do mean that. I have such a struggle with painting stars, despite how much I love them and love including them in all of my paintings. I've never been very good at painting them, so these stars coming out as successfully as they did and as small as they remained is such a huge win for me, because I am literally watching my own growth before my eyes, seeing as I'd never used to be able to paint like this before my perspective shift of trusting the process the way I do now. In these final steps with the twinkles, I'm gonna add some other dots just to take up some more negative space, and then from there I decided I actually wanted to add a really watered down neon pink. Well, when I say watered down, I really mean that I added a bunch of white to it. But anyways, I decided to add this really light pink to the center of all my stars, and from there just tap out the excess paint to give it a more transparent look. And I really do think that it helped to elevate the piece instead of having all of the stars look so flat. And I'm officially done with my 2024 sketchbook. What do you think? I'm so excited to continue sharing what I decide to put in the sketchbook, so follow and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you next time.